said armor that you use to succeed becomes your cage. And the masculine energy is a container. Feminine energy is life force.
And when I would use the word feminine, that actually scared me. To me, meant soft. How do you go from, I gotta be a badass in the courtroom, to, let's take a breath? Welcome to the Alex Perry on Fire podcast. And we're going to start off the episode with something a little different. In studio, we have Jennifer Richards. And she is a high-powered lawyer. But that is not what she is to me, to her husband, to her kids, to her community, to her friends. And I say that because so much of identity is sometimes tied to that and being that person, especially in that profession.
100%.
But just to even start off the podcast, we're going to do it differently. And how would you like to do it?
Well, I suggested before we started that we take a couple of deep breaths and kind of ground in together. And being Alex, you said, no, we're going to do it on TV. So let's do it live.
Yeah.
Okay. So we did our little sage clearing before. We're barefoot. We're just going all hipster today, aren't we? So let's close our eyes. I guess I'm leading this.
Yes.
Let's just feel our feet on the floor. Take some deep breaths into our belly. Let's just let that feeling of gratitude sit with us for a second. I know I'm grateful to get to be here with you. Whenever you're ready, just open your eyes and come back in the space with me. Good morning, friend.
Morning.
That was different.
So different. It slowed me down, you know, just really slows kind of the pace of everything down.
Mm-hmm.
I love it.
Yeah, I didn't know what we were going to do, but I knew I felt a little bit of interesting, nervous energy when there's nothing to be nervous about. So I thought, let's just get back in our bodies, right?
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
And now I'm going to ask you some questions.
Let's do it.
No, I think as I set the tone just by introducing you, fill us in a little bit on Jennifer Richards, because if you say high-powered lawyer, female high-powered lawyer, I think the last thing a lot of people would think, and it's not what I would have thought until sitting in this chair across from you and knowing you, wait a second. Let's do some breathing exercises. Let's clear the energy in the room, which we did before. You said, look, a lot of lights, cameras, feels very showy.
Mm-hmm.
That's not what we want this to be about.
Yeah.
So how do you go from one space, which is, I got to be a badass in the courtroom and to my clients, to let's take a breath?
Oh, I think you just asked the entire story of my life, right? Because that archetype that I play in the courtroom, I think, has been the armor of my entire life, which is I am here to fight for other people. I am the only female in a room. I've got brothers. I've got a big energy dad. I've got all male cousins. I've got only sons. I've just spent my life in a lot of male energy and spent my life thinking, how do I morph to that, to be the only girl in the room, but also just as strong, just as brave, and bring that presence. And for the longest time, it was to the detriment of myself. When you said, how do you go from one to the other? I didn't. I just brought that force everywhere, right? Into my home, into my relationships, everything. And then I went through this process of realizing, oh, there's a different side. And that felt very fracturing, right? Because you feel like I just baked bread for my children and kissed all over my precious little boy, and now fuck you, right? And going from those two energies, it felt a little bit schizophrenic. And I thought there's got to be a way to merge these two. And so then you think, well, I guess I'm just not going to be a lawyer anymore because I've actually found my heart again, and lawyers don't have hearts. And then you realize that high-powered energy, and the reason that it creates so much, or feels like there's so much strength around it, is because it's in such high-pressured situations. My clients are in the worst moments of their professional lives oftentimes, or, make or break the company, all places that all of their energy has gone into. And so slowly I started to realize that rather than approach it from a place of, we're here for death and destruction, it's, yeah, we're going to use strength, but we're going to use strength to create solutions. And we're going to use strength to sometimes kick ass because that's what needs to happen because that's the right thing. But sometimes it's not. And so actually bringing that intelligence and that feminine side over, but realizing that there's still a lot of space for strength.
I'm also working on bringing a lot of feminine into my life. And when I would use the word feminine, that actually scared me because like even the word feminine to me meant soft, weak, girly.
Right.
I got 3 brothers.
Yeah.
I went to boarding school. I'm supposed to be this masculine guy. And I still struggle, but it's like, does that take away my power? You had said that you were, very male dominated industry and had to have that masculine kind of persona. And then you went to the feminine. And when you came back, the strength, like I had to go back into my masculine to find the strength.
Right. And so kind of what does that look like in those two pieces? And
do you look at, from a woman, how do you look at the feminine?
Amazing question. And one that I am still very much in conversation with. I'm a very visual person. And so for me, the best way to describe masculine versus feminine is not what society thinks of as pink versus blue, right? Or breadwinner versus not. I think of them both as energies, and the masculine energy is a container, right? It is strength. It is stability. It is what I talked about my husband being in the woods for a week in the cold, right?
Yeah, no thank you,
alone and by himself. And it is this structure that then allows feminine energy, which is life force. And I don't mean that in an arrogant way. We create children. Yeah. Like we literally create life, right? And life force energy is vibrant. It is dancing. It is that emotion. It is that softness. It is the play. It is the creativity. It's the good stuff. It's what makes a woman, when she walks in and she's dressed beautifully, like stir up something in both the men and women in a room that's different than when an attractive man walks in, right? A hot woman walks in and it's like your whole body just kind of opens and moves a little bit. And a strong man walks in and you kind of go, because I'm safe. And that is not because of the traditional masculine and feminine roles. It's the energy, because we also see hot women with terrible energy. They don't always go together, right? And so for me, getting in touch with the feminine has meant getting in touch with intuition, creativity, softness in the meaning of vulnerability, not softness in the meaning of like, look, if you have me on this podcast in 2 years and I've done a lot of healing, I'm still not going to be in a flowered dress. That's not my femininity, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. And for the longest time, I thought to be more feminine meant to dress like the other moms, and that's just not it. And so for you, as you're exploring this idea of bringing in more femininity, it doesn't mean that suddenly Alex is going to dress flamboyantly or be soft or cry at the drop of a hat, although you may, and there's a lot of strength in that. It means that you spent a lot of time building this container and structure. You're financially stable. You've got pillars of friendships. You've got a flow to your day. When you work out, you've got these disciplines. Those are all very masculine and they're all very healthy. And they've created a space that now you get to get free. And that feminine energy is your play and your life and that thing in your gut that told you to create for men. That's feminine energy. The thing in your gut that said, I'm going to fix it, there's your masculine. And they're both fantastic. And there's a place for both of them.
Yeah. And I think as you're learning that, or I'm learning that from strong masculine, you just have to be patient with yourself because they don't all of a sudden mesh.
No, they don't. And what I realized is that a lot of my healing the feminine wasn't about going and getting more girly. It was actually about recognizing that all that masculine energy was wonderful. I just needed to realize what it was for. And what it was for is that I know deep down that no matter what happens for me, I'm safe. And if you took away my bar card tomorrow, my ego would die a horrible, ugly death, and it would be really messy for a minute. And then probably I would create something else, right? Because I I understand infrastructure and I understand that masculine energy. But from now on, when I create, I don't want a hollow infrastructure that's just the cage. I want that feminine life force flowing through. And that's really been the journey.
Yeah, and you put it pretty eloquently, but I imagine there's a lot of waves in, starting this one way and then kind of transitioning to the other. From a pattern standpoint, because you said it's a story of your life.
Yeah.
So where did it start?
Oh, beautiful question. I think as early as 8 years old, there was a big fracture in my family. That's when my parents divorced. And that is when this idea that a woman stays home and a man works, and this is how things go, and small town. And that was what the majority of my friends' families looked like. That's what my family looked like. And suddenly the story was that's not a safe way of being. That gets you left. That gets you financially unstable. And so that little girl said, well, we are going to be the toughest, baddest around. And so I figured out very quickly that the way to get attention from other people, the way to feel safe was to succeed. And so at a very early age, I've always been straight A student, the good kid, you know, oh, I remember my friends' families saying things like, I wish our kid was like you. And I would think to myself, what do they want them to be like me for? I don't feel anything. I'm just a machine. And I don't think I had the words for that, but I didn't understand what anybody wanted about what I had going. Because to me, I was just checking boxes, because if you didn't make an A, if you didn't, then you weren't safe, right? And that, in the society that we live in, is a recipe for excellent success. I went to undergrad on a scholarship. I went to law school on a full ride, came out, did all of the federal clerkship, the big law, everything that you're supposed to do. And very little of it was for the sake of joy. Most of it was for the sake of, you have to do it or else, right?
Yeah, and you don't know when you're in that, part of your life that you are doing it for safety.
Yeah, exactly. You're not at all aware of that. It's just succeed, succeed, succeed. And I think Brene Brown said it best. I'm sure you've followed some of Brene's stuff, where she said at some point, the armor that you used in your life to succeed becomes your cage. And I think the reason you have this podcast, I think the reason that we're sitting here, the reason that we've become friends over the years, is because both of us built fantastic armor. And then all of a sudden, one day it was a cage. And you think, well, do I throw this away? Surely not. I built it. And so the process is dismantling it without hurting yourself or others, and recognizing that there's some great stuff to it, right? Like, we can still use all of that. We're just going to use it different.
I could resonate to the T with that, exactly where the podcast came from. But even then, when you recognize it, it's not as simple as, okay, let's take down this, teach their own steel plate.
Yeah.
When did you come to that realization that I got a steel plate, and this is the scary part of it, no longer going to serve me in the way that it had been serving me, which was in such a safe manner?
Yeah. I figured you would ask that question, and I was trying to think of what is that great awakening moment, or what is that? And I think that there's so many iterations, because we think we figure it out and we go tell our friends, look, this is it. And then 2 years later, you're like, I didn't know anything then. And that wasn't because we just continue to die and evolve and die and evolve. Otherwise, why would we be here, right? But I think that the easiest way to sum it up was I hit that moment where I had the great husband, 2 beautiful children, the dog, a great house, the career I wanted. I'm healthy. I'm flying to New York to buy clothes. I'm driving a fun car. I'm taking all the trips that I want to take. And it wasn't unhappiness. It's not I don't want any of this, where somebody wakes up and says, I don't want this life. It was, I don't feel anything. Like, what is that? And I had to get really curious about that, because I think that what we see in midlife is people take 2 paths. One is more consuming. I don't feel anything, therefore, let me party harder, let me buy more, let me work harder, let me create more. We see, and then as a woman, I don't know that men get this messaging, but especially as a mom of young children, we get inundated with the messages of the days are really hard, but you just need to look your kid in the eye and love it and be present. So then you just crap all over yourself because you're like, oh, I don't love my kids enough. I'm not grateful. I just need to sit in this and feel incredibly happy. And you can be objectively grateful. And there was never a moment that I thought I didn't want those things. I just couldn't access what I thought they were supposed to feel like. And so I thought something's going to have to change here. And if the answer is not to work harder, and I knew it wasn't for me to work less, because I think that's the other thing people think is, oh, well, this means it's time for me to stay home and embrace this, right? But we're inherently built to create. And I don't mean create empires. I mean we're just built to create. And so I realized I'm going to have to go in because there's nothing else out. And so that was my moment of, I tried all the things. I bought some more, I worked a little harder, I partied a little harder, I prayed a little more, meditated like crazy. And at some point you're like, these are all just window dressing. We got to go deep and look at all the big stuff inside.
Yeah. And again, I can relate so much to that because it kind of, you said it, but it does kind of come out of nowhere. It's like, this was the way I was living and everything was great. And I'm almost like, I was naive and it was great.
I would love to still be naive. Didn't you look at people? And I look at people that seem very happy and they had everything I had. And I beat up on myself for years because I thought it's enough for them. That should be enough because it is enough. And something in me was like, but it's not enough. There's more.
Your soul, as I've done work, is saying there's more. There's more. This is not it. And as much as you want your brain to say, this is it, this is it. Look, society says this is it.
Yep.
And you're like, this isn't it.
Yep.
And you're like, there's an oh fuck moment where it's like, what now? And for me, there was. For you, and I know you said it wasn't like kind of overnight, but there's got to be a feeling of like, I'm supposed to be this high-powered lawyer. I've built an identity around it. Nothing phases me. I'm the badass. And I'll say now creeps in doubt.
Yes. And you think, if I'm going to have these feelings, then I have to blow all of that up, right? Because that's the only example we've seen. You hear it, the midlife crisis. This was the moment they walked out of their corporate job and moved to the beach or, something like that. And I kept thinking, that can't be it. I've got a husband, I've got kids. We're very close to our families. Like, I actually don't want to blow it up. I want to love it. And so I actually don't think that it's, when we said this can't be it, it's our relationship to the thing can't be it, right? The idea that checking all of those boxes gets us there. And now we can just go to our successful job and come home. And if your thing is golf or a yoga class, and that's it. No, there's got to be a different relationship to it where you're in constant creation or else not enough.
I agree 100% because you don't necessarily want to blow up something that you spent 30 years creating that pays bills, that helps others, that gives you energy.
Right.
It's like, I don't want to blow this up, but I don't know necessarily.
But I can't play this role anymore.
No, exactly. And I only know how to be really good at my job in this role too. You said it, like you kind of said you were this, almost like masculine in a world of masculine, saying, I got this. I'll take care of you guys. I know how to do it. And all of a sudden now it's like, but I can't do my job the same way.
Yeah. Right.
And so I asked you, like, what is that transition like? And how did you handle that transition?
I think it's still a work in progress. I'm still trying to reinvent the wheel on what it looks like to be a conscious, thoughtful attorney, because don't we all know just a lot of miserable lawyers, right? And I've certainly had those moments. I think it'll be my big pause. Give me a second here. I think it was taking the ego out. So the thing that made law so stressful and the thing that made me so effective at it was this idea that they were all my problems to fix. And the second a client called, I could barely even hear the entire story before my brain was going, how do you help them? How do you get them out of crisis? What do you tell them? What do you tell them? I wasn't even listening fully. I was already in reactionary mode because I was their call and I was going to fix it. And that same ego is the ego that wakes you up at 2:00 in the middle of the night going, did I miss that deadline? Should I have argued it this way? Is that going to be okay? Was that a $10 million misstep? Right? And when you take the ego away and you realize that being a lawyer is no different than any other service industry, I'm a tool, I'm a conduit, I'm a solution creator for somebody else's problems. Suddenly I could listen and realize they actually don't need me to jump in and save them because that's not empowering. They need me to listen and hear what they want and then help give them the path to get there. Because then they're not going to have to call me next year in the same loop again because they're going to go, oh, the last time I got here with Jen, we walked through the path and I know how we got here. And so there was a book I read years ago. It wasn't even a spirituality book. It was a professional book about the different types of professionals and how at the highest level is the brain surgeon. And it is get on the table and I will fix you and do not ask questions. What questions are you going to ask of a brain surgeon? And that's really how I practiced law because my cases are very complex. They're not very run of the mill. And the clients usually they're like, look, I'm paying you this much money. I want to go make my own money. You fix it. And having somebody's brain in your hands, I mean, obviously our friends that are brain surgeons listening to this are thinking she has no idea. No, I'm not. Nobody's life is in my hands. But there's an ego to that that I don't think has to be in law. And so when I took that out and realized I am just here from service, then on the days that I need to be hard charging and I need to be tough and I need to be, quote, mean to opposing counsel or whatever that looks like, I know that it's just in service to that purpose versus I need everybody in this room afraid of me, right? And that makes it very effective.
As you recognize how strong your masculine energy was
Mm-hmm.
and maybe how not in touch you were with the feminine,
Mm-hmm.
do you find that even though it was serving you, it was actually toxic masculine energy that you needed to actually even fine tune on that side?
Yes. And it was also leading to toxic or fake feminine energy because it was like the more successful I became, the bigger my law practice grew and the more I checked the boxes. The fancier my clothes got, the skinnier I got, the longer my hair got. And, you see it where all of a sudden these beautiful women are Botoxed and fillered, and I probably shouldn't be using words that trigger people. I have no judgment. But I was starting to go down those paths. And it was because I was thinking that both feminine and masculine were roles to be played and masks to put on. And so I don't think it showed up as a toxic male energy of like violence or any of that. But it didn't allow me to access true feminine because I was playing a role over here. So then I was also playing a role there.
It's funny as you say that. I can notice so much. It only hit me when you said that. So much more of your feminine than when I first met you. When I actually first met you, I liked you as a lawyer, but I didn't like you as a person too much because I was strong masculine and I didn't like it. I really didn't. I'm being real.
Yeah.
Like I'm being real. I'm
that
like,
makes sense.
I never liked strong masculine women because I didn't understand it actually.
Yeah.
I actually didn't understand it. I didn't like it. As I've spent more time with you and why I've spent more time with you is actually enjoy. It's probably word you hear, but there's some nurturing.
Yeah.
That I want when I hang out with a feminine.
Mm-hmm.
Like I do. Like
right.
I'm not hanging out with a ton of women because I want strong masculine in
Right.
my life. I got that covered.
Yeah.
And one of my best friends, he says, he's like, Alex, you need to find some women who bring in this, who you like, but bring in
Yeah.
a softness. And he's right. I only said it 'cause you brought it to my attention, but it's true. You carry yourself very strong still, but I don't feel like I need to fight it. Like I
Yeah.
I feel like I can be vulnerable with it,
Yeah.
which is different. There's a difference. So whatever you're doing, and you don't even have to say what you're doing, that's the beauty of it, is actually working with someone and it's obviously working in your practice.
Hmm.
Because again, when I hire a lawyer, I'm like, I don't want a softie.
Right.
I don't want someone who's going
Yeah.
to, but you're doing it. So well done.
Well, thanks. It's amazing how these things click years later. I had not thought about my initial impression of you until you said that, or how, and we ran into each other professionally and at the gym. And I remember at that time thinking, um, Alex and I should connect, but we don't. Like, it wasn't a don't like, it was like, this is like you said, this, right? And when I think back on it, it's because when I used to meet strong male energy, my gut reaction was, I see your energy and I raise it. You're not going to ever be stronger than me. Nobody's going to overpower me. And so I met that with male energy, like you said. So we were actually having a pissing match, and I'm a girl, and you're like, this doesn't make any sense, right? And now I realize I am just as strong as you, but I have completely different strengths. And I use those in all aspects of my life and my practice. And it's very impactful using feminine energy in a very male dominated room, and not in a manipulative, overly sexualized way.
No, it's special. It's attractive is a great word, but I'm using attractive, and it's just attractive. That's what we'll talk about. Energy.
Energetically,
It
right.
is attractive. You just said it gave me chills saying it. What gets your attention when someone walks in the room is not necessarily the look. It's called the attraction. You're like, what is that? Where is that coming from?
What is that light? What is that thing?
Yeah, there's a feeling.
Mm-hmm.
When I looked at you before I knew who you were, I said, this is a high-powered, badass attorney who doesn't take shit from anybody, and you want her on your side. That's how I looked at you. And then the universe is a funny place, but now I look at you as this deep thinking, um, you're more rare because, and I don't even know if rare is the right word. I'm not coming up with the right word, but like special. I'm struggling on the word and I hope it comes to me, but like someone that takes the time to think about these things and then vulnerable enough to share them also in the profession you're in. You don't see it very often. So there's got to be a scare tactic as well, as if you're like, okay, can I even voice this to people? Like, can I voice? Because what it sounds
Yeah,
like is a little bit, because I've going through it, other people, is an identity change. I mean, it's an
absolutely.
identity change.
Yeah. Well, and even as you said it, I thought, well, I hope he knows that I am still the one that he wants on his side, because if we need to go kick somebody's ass right now, we can. If your phone blows up and we have a problem, we can fix it. That part is still there and very much alive, and it can be really fun. I've just changed my relationship to it. And and you asked, how do I share it? It's in the profession, it's not something I lead with in words. It's just a shift in your way of being. And I've realized that it calls in different clients, calls in a higher level of the type of success I want. The firm's doing better than ever, but not from a grind, just from a getting really complicated problems and fun clients, solution oriented. Um, yeah. So I I don't have these conversations with my opposing counsel, right? Although sometimes I do. I had an opposing counsel a couple of weeks ago, and we were about to try a case, and we've been banging up on each other hard. And he called and he said, I have to have this surgery. I got to move our trial. And he thought that I was going to give him a hard time. And I said, um, sounds like you're moving too fast. How's your body? Like, what else? How long did it take you to make this call? And we ended up on the phone for an hour. And he said, look, we got to get this case done the best way we can for our clients, but whatever you need, you've got it. And so sometimes, it does really show up in interesting ways.
I can relate that in my business too. It's like, I used to say yes to everything, right? Like you just said, yes to every client. And I changed in being and thinking and the energy of people. And almost like you said, I love my clients right now. They're great clients. My life's easier. The other stressful, awful clients,
fell away.
I don't really see that. They don't even reach
They
out
don't
to
really
me.
want to be with this version of you.
Yeah.
And, not because there's anything wrong with it. It doesn't resonate with that energy.
Yeah. And it was like you just said, you got a problem? I'm your man. I'll solve it no matter what.
Yep.
And now it's like, don't give me a hard time if I can't fix something that's not real. Like you're asking for something that doesn't exist and I'm not really your guy.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like that's not me. And I don't want the stress of it because I carried the stress of it.
Yeah.
So I looked at it very egotistically.
Mm-hmm.
I looked at it as you're calling me.
Right. Oh, it's such a good hit, isn't it?
I'm the man because you're calling me.
Yep.
And because I think I hold you in such a high level in what you do in your business or who you are.
Right.
Ooh, you need me.
Exactly.
And so I carried this pressure. I got to find it. And then not only when I find the deal, I got to perform.
Oh, yeah.
I got to perform. And then after I perform, still got to make sure that you loved me enough so that, you said you worked with the best realtor in town. And for a while, it served me.
Yeah.
And almost like you said, it was a safety. The truth is it was a safety net, right? It was this, I feel super uncomfortable. And that's kind of where I want to go a little bit with you is how did you recognize, because there's so much power in that, to say, look, this came from somewhere. This was the Jennifer, and it wasn't Richards before then or whatever. Salim, that everyone wanted me to be or that I had to be.
Mm-hmm.
When did you recognize that was the pattern? Because I got to believe that helped with the shift too. And how do you try and now recognize once you see that there are patterns, are we not just repeating?
Ooh, I deal with that pattern every day. So I think there's still so many blind spots to it that maybe I am not the one to lead the path on that. But I think it was when even the big wins no longer felt good. Right? It was, this feels like when I got all A's in 3rd grade and my mom would say, great job. And I would think, was a B an option? And when I was winning big cases and big trials and my firm's going great and I'm getting, people like you who I respect saying, you're my call if something's wrong. And I'm like, how could that not be? Like anything less would be failure. And so there was no room for anything other than this perfect pedestal. It's exhausting. And so I think it was that recurring feeling is how I found the pattern of no matter what I do, I feel the same at the end of every day. And I don't want to feel that way anymore.
And I'll say this because I've been there. And then you make the change. And while you're going through the change, I'll tell you, when I'm going through the change, my nervous system rocked. Everything I know changed. Just when I say change, like, this is the way I did it. This made me feel safe. Now all of a sudden it doesn't. Like I've joked, but said it feels like someone took my guts and then they like started hanging them out there. And I'm like, there's nothing in here, which is a awful feeling. Or sometimes it feels like I have no legs. Like meaning like if someone said, go run a mile or go run 100 yards, I'd be like, feel a little light. Where before someone was like, go run 6 miles. I was like, all right, let's see what time I can do it in. Does that make sense? And so you've got this. Did that happen to you? Did you have this like time
I think
of
what
like?
You're saying is that when you take away the fear and the pattern that drives the armor, you feel like you lose your engine. And suddenly the way you used to wake up and check your phone and inherently run, because that's what we do, there's moments in this work where you're having to drive yourself just to call back your biggest client. And you think, oh no, this is what they're talking about, where the people just check out and their drive is gone. That is a terrifying feeling because you and I are built on drive and energy. And when that drive feels like it's in idle, you're like, I think tomorrow I die. I don't think there's,
You feel like you're going so slow.
I don't think I can survive like this. Right. And that's when you realize what I had to do is I had to realize that there's nothing wrong with drive, because I think what this spiritual path and enlightenment and what we, hippies, kind of like the bad stereotypes that we hear, the idea is is that one day you realize that this hard charging way is superficial and not enough. And so you stop and you go sit and you meditate and you don't do anything ever again. And that is also to die. Like, just two very different deaths,
Yeah.
right? And so, yes, that engine has gotten pulled out where I feel like I went from a sprint to on the concrete on my face. And I tried for years, and I still try sometimes, and I still do it sometimes, to just take that old engine and put it back in. And it'll go for a little bit, and then you sputter out again. And you're like, oh, I'm burned out. Oh, I'm exhausted, right? Because now the gears are grinding, whereas before it just ran. And so now I'm changing my relationship to it of I am not an engine that has to run, but a creative being, and approaching everything from a place of creativity and creation, right? And that can still be in real estate, and that can still be in law, um, because you can connect with your people and you can make sure that when they move into a home, it is from a place of thoughtfulness and intentionality of what is going to be good and right for their family versus, well, my real estate agent has the biggest ego and I have the biggest ego, and we realized that we could get 2,000 more square feet and be the most prestigious. And then there's a hollow space there, right? But you can actually use your relationship to them as this creative space to actually create positive places. And so that's the tension that I deal with, is that engine's gone, and the pattern that I want on a daily basis is to put that engine back in and run. And then when I do it, I feel that same feeling of, right, of course I didn't screw up. That's what we're supposed to do. And you still don't feel good. So then you take it back out. And then you feel hollow and you feel nervous and you don't know what to do with that space. And then that little thing comes up where you said, like this morning, something kind of broke open where it had felt heavy. And in that space where it breaks open, then that wisdom and voice comes of, you're going to do this. You're going to start a podcast. You're going to call that friend that you haven't called. You're going to do this for yourself. You're going to write this big check for your community. And that's where the real stuff comes from. But it's no longer coming from that engine. It's coming from that quiet place of stillness and wholeness.
Because you've almost quieted, I would say, it's almost like the brain and the body.
You've connected them.
And you're going into the body.
Mm-hmm.
I can resonate with that. The other day I had an idea that I want to do that's so giving back.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to do. Now I'm slowing it down because I don't want to get too excited and but I'm like, I love this.
And you want to do it from here, not because, this is going to bring in more clients and this is going to build this, or this is what I'm supposed to do. No, it came from something inside where your whole body relaxes and goes, yes.
Yeah, there's some purpose. There's some, and what you're referencing before you came in today, and it's funny you said it because you asked me what my intention was I was having a little bit of a difficult morning. I woke up at 3 a.m. and
what is it? Is there some spiritual like window that opens at 3? Because all of us do it. What is that?
I don't know. But I woke up at 3. In my normal old life, if I woke up at 3, I'd be asleep at 3:02. My now life at 3, I'm like, and I'm like trying to keep myself in bed so that I don't, not getting out of bed at 3:30 or 3:50 or whatever. Then I got to my workout. I was like, well, I gave myself compassion. I'm like, good for you for getting to your workout.
Mm-hmm.
And then I journaled and did some stuff, but like some of that stuff doesn't work. Some of it's like, go do this stuff. But I wanted to get into a place of flow. I wanted to get into a place of flow for this podcast, for the day.
Mm-hmm.
And 30 minutes before something, I just came to me almost like you said, I said, I have gratitude. And what do I have gratitude for? I said, this is profound. It doesn't have to say, I have gratitude that my brother's alive. Which it almost makes me like emotional. Yeah. Because it should be like a given, but it's not.
None of it is. No.
Right? Like it's not.
Yeah.
So I texted him and I was like, brother, I love you. I have gratitude that you're alive and I will celebrate that today. And it released so much.
Mm-hmm.
So much.
So I want to challenge you for the next time that you say it's not working. Because I think that's your old engine, right? That's making something work versus just being with what is. Because you woke up to get in flow, to have your most productive day, to have a great workout. And what your body and spirit and soul needed was to connect to your brother. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's not working. That's just what you needed. And so when you wake up at 3, it is not, how do I do enough work to get to go back to sleep at 3:02 like I used to? And how do I journal enough to not feel fried? But what am I supposed to learn right now?
Yeah.
What is this? What do I need? Okay, it's 3:00 and I'm awake. I need to shake it out. I need to do some breath work. And just following that path, not to get to the place of calm, not to get to a place of productivity, but just to be.
I love that. And as I was in bed at 3 a.m, it's kind of the work I've been doing. I was like, whatever faith is, I'm like, what are you trying to tell me? Like, what's going through my mind? And some of it was like, let your brother be, actually. Let him be, like, stop worrying about him. That doesn't solve anything. The other was these other things I've been working on for myself, which is, you're human. You're just a human. Like, these are things that come up. You're dealing with things that regular humans come up with, not people have to stay elevated and always be this certain way, because that's how people see you as, or you see yourself as. So it was releasing, but almost to what, we talked about. And that leads me to my another, the next thing. It's like, I said gratitude, but the other day, and for the audience listening, this was incredible. I don't think there are a lot of accidents. And so I was like, Jen, we haven't seen each other in a while. Let's go for a walk. I mean, they're random. We don't see each other very often.
Every couple months.
So for some reason, it's like, I thought I was doing it to catch up. I think I did it because I needed her in some way, shape, or form, and she showed up. But kind of, because I loved what we did. Kind of, will you explain to the audience, like, basically how we found you've got 2 kids, a husband, a very busy work life. I obviously have not. I don't have the kids in the in the family, but we made time at 6 a.m. to go for a walk. But it wasn't just a walk. There was so much value in that, and kind of, I'd like you to share kind of what you came up with, and because it really helps.
Oh, is this the gratitude walk? Thank you for opening that. So, full disclosure, I did not come up with that. I think probably many people have invented many iterations of it. A woman that I adore, that I've worked with for the last several years, she and her husband actually taught me and my husband. We were with them in Ibiza on this great trip, just all about learning and expansion. And we were on this hike. And they said, this is how you take it to the next level. Like, when you're with people and you just want to raise the vibrational energy, and every day for yourself. And it felt so vulnerable and so silly. And yet by the end of it, we were just laughing and cutting up. And so I shared it with you, and you were brave enough to accept it. I thought, this could be our last walk. You might think this is where Jen's gone too far. But we won't make the audience practice it. But essentially, you and I spoke out loud, because this gets into where people are really going to think I've lost it. And I certainly am not a quantum physicist and don't understand all of these things. But I know that if you look at everything from the Bible to science, the Bible says that God spoke life into existence, and science says that everything is made of vibrations and energy, right? And so, and as you said, you're connecting to something bigger at night, and you're speaking to something. And I truly believe that when you speak something, then that vibrational energy is helping create your reality. And so you and I spoke the realities that we wanted for each other, for our friends to experience. So we started with, I'm so grateful for. And today I'm so grateful for a friend that I can connect to like this. I'm so grateful that you and I get to do this work. I'm so grateful we have the freedom, the financial resources, the time, the bravery, the courage to do this. And then we transitioned into,
and we encourage it. And
yes,
so I won't let you
you're
stop.
Cheering.
You're like,
yes.
and I love
yes.
it, love it. And so I'm like, I'm grateful for my dogs. I'm grateful for this podcast. I'm grateful that you came into my life. I'm grateful that I can work out and I'm healthy. I'm grateful that I become more conscious. You just keep, and you're like, and.
Yes.
And then once you kind of run out, because at some point you run out, although you could go along, then you go the next.
Yes. and we open the floor, and I'm loving the feeling. And I'm loving the feeling of this open conversation. I'm loving the feeling of being a little bit nervous. I'm loving the feeling of how this morning I got to wake up and make sourdough with my boys. And this afternoon, I get to solve a really tough problem for a client. I'm loving the feeling of knowing that you and I are going to help other people open pathways in doing this. I'm loving the feeling of it finally being fall.
All these things, yeah, it
Yeah.
is getting present. And I would say, yeah,
Yeah.
I love the feeling of starting my day off like this. And I love the feeling that, yes, someone may listen to this and have an aha moment.
Yes.
I love the feeling that I control my schedule after this, and I get to go
Ah,
have lunch with a best
yes.
friend and then go ice and then see what the night brings me. I love the feeling that right now in this moment, I feel like I'm moving forward and not backwards.
Yes.
And so just this idea that you're trying to keep going on these things and then
Yeah. And we explored expanding it, right? Because it's this challenge that people like you and I think everybody is, you want to be present, and as simple as your morning schedule, and you want to move forward or feel like you're moving forward. And so that great balance of, I am grateful for the taste of this. I'm loving the feeling of this cup of coffee, and I'm loving the feeling of being in my highest power and my flow. I'm loving the feeling of unbelievable resources coming to me. I'm loving the feeling of every client being completely in alignment. Sometimes you're speaking a little bit of your future, right? And where you're going. And you did a good job
well,
of really putting it out
it keeps
there.
going. And the next
Keeps
one
going.
is
The next one, we look back. We get into a little bit of manifesting, and we say, looking back from 2030 to 2025, it's beautiful that was the year that Alex and I both really opened up, but how that one podcast in 2025 led to a new project that we didn't even see coming, that by 2030 is so fun and exciting. In 2025, that's when Alex had this idea to give back to the community and went for it. And now in 2030, it's this well-established thing. In 2025, that's when I decided to stop pretending that my armor was me. And now I feel so powerful and so free at the same time.
yeah, if I was saying, I love that in 2025, I gave up the phone controlling me and having to be on it 24/7.
Yes.
I gave up having to call everyone back. I gave up a lot of control. I won't say all control, but having to know and be, I gave up, so we just, these things that we're saying, okay, this
They've
will
already
happen.
happened. And in 2030, this is how I'm experiencing it.
Yeah,
So in
I gave
2030,
up-
you're free of the phone.
I found a new community. I love how I
Yes.
found new friends, or I jumped into a thing, or I love how I put the time into learning a new instrument, or I love how I
Yes.
spent time learning how to bake or cook or be open to new things. And it's this idea that, okay, where could you challenge yourself, or if you look back?
Exactly. Yeah. And expanding your nervous system's capacity to feel that, right? Like looking back from 2030 to 2025, it's amazing that was when I opened myself to new friends. And now in 2030, I've got this incredible community of people that are in alignment with my love and my interest, and like feeling that. Or for you, that's when I opened myself up to romantic relationships. And now I'm with the partner of my dreams.
Yeah,
right. And
exactly.
like really feeling into that. And sometimes you say it and it feels kind of sticky. And you realize, you know what, that's not right for me. One time my husband did it, and he said something about like looking back from, and maybe I shouldn't use somebody else's example because he's not here to get to edit this. So I've used him before, where looking back from 2030 to 2025, that's the year that my law firm took off, and now we're at 100 people. And I went, I don't think I want that. I don't think that feels good. I don't know that is my highest purpose, right? So I walk that back and go, okay, well, what was that? Oh, what I really wanted was my law firm to have more impact. Okay, so from 2030 to 2025, that's when I stopped taking smaller cases and only took cases that I felt had a larger impact on our community, on the state, on our country, right? And so shifting where it's like you're still getting there. And so you can kind of test these things out.
Yeah, I love it. Sorry, the last one, which is, this is the most vulnerable one, where you got to do a rap about how you're feeling.
We're not going there now, are we?
Yeah. So, I mean, and you got to get vulnerable. I mean,
Yeah.
that's where, unless you're a good rapper, which I'm not, but I still did it.
You
I still did
You
it.
did a great job. And it doesn't have to be a rap. It could be a song.
It could be a poem.
It could be a poem. Is it poem? I always
Poem.
poem. Yeah.
It could be like a haiku.
Yeah. And that's where we're all craving authenticity and vulnerability so much. And I find that when you use this walk with your friends, whether you're on for me, a girls' weekend, or when my husband and I are just on another walk and, we've kind of covered the day, it's just a way to open that playfulness up, right?
Well, and you don't have to go through I've gone for a walk by myself and done it, actually by myself.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. You can still feel a lot.
I started doing it a little bit, just the first phase. I've been waking up early, like earlier than I want to.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how to go back to sleep. Or before I go to sleep, I practice this. I'm like, what am I grateful for? Because I was having weird dreams, like super weird dreams and like subconscious dreams, which
you're going to have to start working with lucid dreaming, aren't you? Like Aaron talked about.
Yeah. I mean, but some of which I didn't want, like it just kind of threw me off the next day. So I started like thinking, okay, before I go to sleep, what am I grateful for? So my mind wasn't thinking of other things.
Mm-hmm.
And then if I woke up early, I just started that. It actually put me back to sleep. So,
nice.
And that was from kind of the walk. And, I go back into the walk. It's like, it's so powerful to talk about these things.
Yeah.
Thus the podcast, but also just like, where can you find someone that, you can have these conversations? And I think for the audience, it's tough, right? Like I'm lucky. Talk about gratitude. I'm lucky that I have it in you, in my brother and other people that have been on the show. We don't always have that. Actually, one of the thing that came to me that I was just talking about is I want to open up a place, I mean, I'll say it now, where guys, it doesn't have to be gender, but I thought where guys can just go in and we can have a conversation.
Yes.
And just listen. They don't even have to have talk, but they can just listen to people talk about what's going on in their life. I'm struggling with my relationship right now. I don't know what's going on. I am addicted to Adderall. Work doesn't feel good to me. Or just listen to the people who are telling you it, because I also think we all lie to ourselves.
Yeah.
I told myself for 10 years I was never stressed. I'm like, you're stressed. I'm like, I'm not fucking stressed.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? Stressed.
Yeah.
But my point being is it's like, these talks, and they're hard. Like the one talk I had with you, it wasn't like I came home and I'm like, oh my God, I feel incredible.
You had a vulnerability hangover.
I just was like, fuck.
You're like, oh, she saw me.
No.
Oh.
And it's more of like, the truth sometimes is difficult, right? Like the truth of it is like, I got a lot of work to do. That can feel a little difficult, but it does feel like you're moving forward.
Yeah.
Or at least what I keep hearing is when you talk about it, that's part of the flow is that you're aware.
Yeah.
Right? Like I keep saying, they're like, you're not giving yourself enough credit. The fact that you're saying these things.
Right. Yeah. So a couple of things. I want to pin the men's safe space because it's huge. And it's funny because I was talking to one of mine and your shared good friends as you opened the door to let me in today. And he and I hadn't talked in a while. And he was just really opening up. And I said, why aren't we doing this more often? Not just you and I, but just in general. Like, why aren't we having these real conversations? And he said, well, some of it is we got to kind of all keep up with each other so that then you can jump in. I said, no, I think that's bullshit. Because you and I haven't actually, he and I had not talked to each other in 3 months. I said, I don't need to know what you had for breakfast for us to have this conversation. Yeah. And I said, should we be having a once a month meeting where the intention is to actually talk about real stuff? And, Alex's week, he brings a little snippet of a podcast. In my week, I bring some poems and we open it up because there is such a thing as like false intimacy where, I'm not sure I would want to stand up in front of a room of 20 men I don't know and say I have an Adderall addiction. And then they all say, it's okay, man, because it is great to shed light on our problems. There's nothing wrong with that. But what you're really wanting is to be seen, right? And I do think that your idea, you run with it. I'm not saying it's a no. But how do we do that in the little moments? Because I think what you and I do, we're such creators that when we get an idea, we are immediately scaling it. So, you said earlier, I'm lucky to have this. You're not lucky, you're creating it. You're pulling off the armor and you're laying yourself bare. Otherwise, you would have just been, you and I met each other professionally as Alex, the real estate agent, and Jen, the lawyer, and I would call you for my people and you would call me for your people. And if one of us hadn't like called the other's bluff, we'd have just kept showing up like that, right?
Yeah, 3-minute phone calls. You got me, I got you. Good.
Exactly. Yep. Town would answer my call, and you knew that if something needed to happen at the courthouse, you could make it happen in 5 minutes, right? And so how do we just create spaces on a regular basis for people to just, yes, we're that, I can fix it, but this, and how are we brave enough to do that? But how do we invite it so that it's not just like, okay, well, they're just gonna like proselytize to us, like
I agree with you, and it isn't a safe space sometimes to be seen. And I agree with you, and it takes. You hit the nail on the head. It's a mirror. A lot of it's a mirror. I mean,
Oh,
I've
yeah.
started to say this way too much. I'm like, I think I'm projecting on you. I
100%.
think I'm projecting on you as I'm asking you questions. I'm like, I think you're doing this. No, it's my, and I think it takes awareness. I think it takes softness. I say this, a lot of feminine attributes. I think it takes coming from the heavy masculine
Mm-hmm.
that I've realized
Yeah.
takes listening.
Mm-hmm.
It takes not solving. And just sitting with it.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I was talking to a really good friend this morning who called me at 9. I missed it. Texted me at 5. No accents. He wants to talk.
Mm-hmm.
Right. He's like, let's dominate the day. No, let's talk. We talked at 5:30 till I get to my workout at 5:50.
Yeah.
But he want to talk.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm gonna listen. And then I also said, which is a new me, is like, I don't know. I was like, hey,
Isn't that
man,
empowering and a weird feeling? First time I told my client that, I don't know. They loved it.
I
Right?
was like,
Because suddenly you're in you're with them in it.
yeah, that's exactly. I said, look, I don't know, but I've been where you are,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know, but I know you need to sit with it,
Yeah.
and I know this is going to be.
And you're not alone.
Oh, I know
Sorry.
there's going to be hard, and I know that I'm happy to sit with you in it because I've
Yeah.
experienced it.
Yeah.
And there's a little bit of calmness to it because you're like, well, if I've experienced it, thank God there's some purpose for me experiencing this shit because it's not fun when you're going through it. But yeah, you said it right. I think, and addressing the audience, ask the question. We've done this before, like holidays coming up, parties are coming up. There's the proverbial, how you doing? Great. And that's fine. There are some people who want to stay just at that level. That's your relationship.
Yep.
But I think you can look people in the eyes. I think you can see in their eyes. I think you can see in their body language. I think you can see when they ask you a question that's kind of leading.
Yeah, where they really want to go. Yeah.
And I think also there's an opportunity if someone asks you how you're doing and maybe you're not doing great. A friend of mine, I won't use names, but I asked him how he was doing. And he said, my mom's really sick. And we weren't that close.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm like, this was in text. And I was like, thank you for sharing that with me.
Yeah.
Because instead of just saying I'm great or blah, 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 he's like, no, this is what I'm dealing with right now.
Yeah.
So now I can be thoughtful that in just who he is, where he is, where that person is, right? And our relationship got stronger from it, in my opinion.
Maybe you can help me craft. So I've been trying to open up better conversations so you asked, how do you bring this into lawyer context, right? Well, like I'm in this once a month lawyer group where we get together and there's a presentation and we sit at tables and everybody in that room is either a managing partner, an owner, a leader, an elected official, a federal judge. These are all people that wear a lot of armor, right? And we all ask each other, what are you working on these days? That's what everybody asks. What are you working on these days? So I asked my table on Wednesday night, what did somebody do that brought them joy today? You would have thought I asked them what color underwear they were wearing. The table got so uncomfortable. Everybody went, it's a Wednesday. I'm like, yeah. Like one guy goes, well, I walked my dog in the sunshine and he's getting better at his leash. He's a puppy. And everybody was like, that's great, And so part of me thought, okay, the world is starving for these conversations. We got to ask it more. But then I also realized, like, maybe I need a softer entrance, right? And so then I think the opposite, what you said, is opening a platform for people to share what's hard But I always want to be careful to not just connect on our lowest vibrational frequency, because women are very good at what I think of as trauma bonding, which is like, I know it's so hard. We go through having kids together, we go through being working moms together, and we're there for each other in the struggle, and we don't know how to celebrate joy, or we don't know how to sit in joy, or we don't know how to experience that levity together. You almost feel embarrassed to say, like, things are wonderful, or this is, and so you got to have
I
both.
love that. Yeah, you want, well, I did this the other day. I had my, I call him my handyman, but he's my partner because without him, I couldn't live my life.
Yeah.
He says, "You're my boss." I said, "No, we're business partners," and we are. And I had his
Yeah.
kids over. It was for his birthday. Sat around the table. There were 6 of us with my twin brother. And I said, "Guys, I'm sorry, but this is me. I'm a deep, So I said, everyone's going to go around the room, and we got 3 months left in the year. What is something that you want to work on, or what's something that has to be like that you really want to be in a better place in, or you're working on to finish the year?"
Mm-hmm.
And that was soft enough where, and I, one person who's maybe a deeper thinker may lead off, but like we didn't. But what was nice to hear is, 2 of the guys were younger, his children, like, I want to get more money. I want to put more money in the bank. I want to put more money in the bank. For me, that was really nice to hear, because I was like, well, that's not something I'm worried about, in the nicest possible way. Well, that's nice that that's nice that I can see that. And I was in that place at one point.
Mm-hmm.
So it actually gave me a nice feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And then,
and an on-ramp to mentor him.
yes. Okay. And they said, one of them said, we want to help our dad get in a better situation. And I said, okay, then why aren't you guys every single Friday night meeting for 3 hours and doing this? And I
Yeah.
said it in the nicest way. And they said, yeah, you're right. It was a vehicle to say, it was an open forum to say, here's how we can help.
Mm-hmm.
I said, I want to trust more in the universe and believe more in my path. So I went a little bit deeper, but it didn't have to be that. It was the idea that we'll admit something we want to work on,
Mm-hmm.
which is a little vulnerable because
Mm-hmm.
not everyone has it figured out.
Yeah.
Changing course a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Your relationship, who I know, with your husband, Stuart, who's the man. But is it difficult if you are this more tough lawyer, masculine, I got to figure this out? Do you have to be cognizant of how you weave this, and then also the change, right? Like, so many times the fear, let's not bring in the fear of work, which is as great as it gets to someone who's used to just working and being safe.
Yeah.
Let's bring in relationships,
Mm-hmm.
family. That's terrifying, because you know yourself as a certain way, and a certain
Mm-hmm.
wife or a certain husband or a certain boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever it may be.
Mm-hmm.
Were you now more cognizant of that? Does it change the relationship? Do you have to be more aware for his needs and things of that nature?
Yeah, it's a big conversation. Have you listened to anything Esther Perel? She's fantastic. And she talks about how you will have 3 marriages in your life. And the way that you choose to handle it will determine if those 3 marriages are with the same person or 3 different people. But everybody has 3 marriages in life. I think Stuart and I are on our 2nd marriage. And the first time I played that for him, he looked at me, he's like, "Are you trying to tell me something?" And it's the idea that we have to be in constant evolution with ourselves and to our relationship with our spouse. And luckily, Stuart has always been very brave in that he doesn't need to know my outcome when I go on these journeys of, hey, I'm working with a new therapist. Hey, I'm going to go on a women's retreat. Hey, I'm going to do this. And you come back different. And parts of you shift that you can no longer function or operate in the way that you used to. And he's always been great about holding that space and saying, I recognize that you're on a journey and you're on your own journey. And it doesn't have to always answer immediately to what that means to me, because that's kind of what we tend to do with our spouses, which is, it's not so much that we're worried about what they're doing. It's how is that going to relate to me? And so it doesn't give them the space that they need to evolve. So I think that was, when we were still in our first marriage, that was his relationship to it. And now so we've gone into what I think of as really this 2nd iteration. And we've been together a long time. I mean, like 19 years, something like that. This iteration, he's recognized, you know what, I'm on a journey too. And I don't think that men always have the space for that. Like you said, that the men's group and like needing that. And his looks very different than mine. He is actually right now in the middle of nowhere with no cell phone service, tracking animals in national forest or public land, not some guided hunt. And it's 28 degrees outside. And that's how he taps into that deep, quiet, and inner knowing for himself. And he used to not take that space because it's hard to be off the grid for 8 or 9 days when you've got little kids and your wife's home working. And he's such a great guy that he would say, well, you know, I'm not going to leave y'all. And so he's had to really work on, I'm not leaving you. I'm going to grow this part of me, right? And I had to adjust to that because I said, go. And then I bitched that he was gone, right? And so, yes, things have shifted and that's good. And you don't want anything to stay stagnant forever. And I think as long as you're both open to growth, that works. But as soon as one of you like nails down, and that can happen, one of us will leapfrog the other, and then we will drag the other one back a little bit, and we'll feel that, and we'll have to have that talk. And then you kind of wait and you hold the space, and the other one catches up. And so sometimes it goes like this, and then sometimes it goes together.
Yeah, and you don't want to drag your partner or say, why aren't you doing this? Or you need to be more like this. Or
And it
look at
doesn't
me.
work.
It doesn't work. You have to, and I think that's where the awareness comes. I mean, I saw y'all having dinner. I mean, this is where my awareness, I came in late to a dinner the other night that y'all were at.
Mm-hmm.
And there's 10 people there, but there's so many personalities and everyone's fighting for space. And it's weird because you start seeing this and you see the people who just listen and quiet. And your husband's a thinker, it's a thought.
Yes.
And it's, you know, for the first time I'm watching him and I'm like, I'm seeing his style. He doesn't want to be the voice. He doesn't want to be the loud person. It's not, he's not pretending. He's not trying to compete with you. You're learning the spaces that you're in. Or I'm saying, you guys, this is what I did. And it's a compliment, right? It's, you figure that out. But yeah, no one knows behind closed doors a lot of things. But I imagine you've been together for 19 years. You figured out, you know, where the comfort level is, where there isn't, where you can kind of, I said that the other day, I want a partner who challenges me. Like, but it's difficult. I want a partner who challenges me, but I don't want a nagging partner, right? Like, I don't want a partner who's like, you know, but I want someone who's like, who's in different fields or does different things that then says, hey, let's try this, or are you up for it? And if I'm not up for it, then let me be, but also push me.
Yeah. And I think the shift is, it's not a challenge in a nagging way or a partner that fixes you or the partner that makes you better, a partner that holds space for your expansion and accepts nothing less, right? And that doesn't mean you need to go to the gym and you need to be more fit. It means I see the best parts in Alex and I will hold and only connect to those parts and wait for that to come forward. And we're not gonna meet each other in fake, right?
Yeah.
Because you can very easily do that in relationships, and you can have what should be a great dinner with your spouse and you feel no connection because the fake parts of yourselves are meeting. And it takes one of you going, hey, what is this like thing I feel here? Well, actually, this happened this week. You said this. Okay, let's clear that. And then all of a sudden it's a great dinner, right? But it takes a lot of bravery and like calling that.
Yeah, and awareness. I resonate. You can watch people having dinner and see that it just feels like they're just having dinner.
You know, we should go in on that because you showed up at that dinner. Some people had joined late that weren't part of our original dinner. The whole atmosphere had shifted. So what I told you, hey, come, was not what you walked into. And this new Alex couldn't fake it. You were like, what are we doing here? Like,
I left.
Yeah. And when you showed up, so I'd been with all these people who are like, okay, but we're going to be polite and we're going to keep going through the motions. And I was kind of doing that with them. And then you show up and you're like, we're not talking about anything, so I'm not going to talk, essentially. Was like, I mean, I could read your mind like a book. I knew everything you were thinking, right? You had half a drink and you left. And I thought, I actually want to be doing what Alex is doing. I was ready to go home an hour ago. Now, I mean, some of our good friends are going to listen to this. They were there. I had a great time being with them. There was just a moment in the night where we all could have been ready to go home, but we kind of, like, some other people showed up. We're being polite. We invite them to the table, you know. I loved the people I was with. You love the people I was with.
Yes.
It's not about them. It was that in that moment, we were no longer connecting about anything of value. And I thought, is the solution what Alex did? Is the solution for me to shift it up? Or maybe it's more of a Stuart where he just quietly listens and thinks, I'm not sure that I have anything left to get here, and I'll just be.
It's really interesting. It's actually, I will say I showed up to a dinner way late. I wasn't, not rudely late, just they invited me. It was people I know.
It was, hey, stop by.
Everyone who listened to it would not be upset with this, actually.
Yeah.
Yes, and there was a lot of personalities going on, there was drinking going on, but it was just, like you said, I was quiet. I watched and I'm like, this is not for me. And I just very, as politely as I could, just left. But yeah, it was energy, right? And I agree, but I think thinking about it after is probably the powerful thing. Like you just said, is actually, okay, next time maybe what I'll do is I'll change the conversation, or I'll see who in that meal is not being seen, right? Like I actually could see who wasn't being seen,
right?
Or who was annoyed. Or I also heard people kind of being a little bit insulting to each other, but you don't even hear and see it. You don't know it. You pick up on these things, and it wasn't awful, like disgusting. It's just you just start picking up on it. And anyways, I think it's all learning, right? What I've learned from these things is you don't have to always be somewhere, and you can remove yourself. And if you don't feel comfortable, you can leave and you can end the night. So I think, like you said, and it's trial and error. But yeah, for the most part, it's.
We'll probably edit a good chunk of that.
Yeah. Sorry, Dom. I'm just kidding.
Please invite us back. We enjoyed it.
But no, I think it's really aware, because I think when you see people, maybe a quiet person at the dinner table, involving them, what do you think? Or asking them something to get them involved so they feel a little bit, or if you feel the conversation has gone to nothing.
Yeah.
And that's actually what I do a lot of times when I feel like we've gotten to this surface level, or kind of like, hey, y'all, let's go a little deeper here. Let's have, and it doesn't always require it. Sometimes it's supposed to be silly and stupid, and let's just keep it there. It's just
where you're
at.
You need a little levity.
We could talk all day. I could talk to you all day. I guess I always like to end kind of with two questions. One, which would be for the audience listening. Suppose you're where Jen was, which is, I got to prove myself back in the day. Got to prove myself. I got to prove myself. Which is a great place to be in. It's actually a place that provides a lot of safety, success, importance. What would be one thing you'd tell, and it can be male or female, but maybe a female, to say, take a breath and maybe just try this, to give yourself what I would call a break. I can look back and be like, I found ways to give myself a break, but they were very forceful and in big ways, not little things during the day, for the most part.
Right.
But what would you say to someone?
Your question actually answered it, which is take a breath. So it's funny because you and I didn't talk about this before, but it sounds like you led into it. The most powerful for me in all of this has been breath work. And it doesn't have to be some big hour-long thing where you go to a studio and you sign up for a class. It is the way that you and I opened. I did not feel in my body, and I did not feel genuinely connected to you. And so we took a breath together, right? And I have a practice. It's that same couple I told you about. It's pyramid breath method is theirs. There's a bunch of them out there, but somebody could Google that one. I teach it. I actually went through their course, and it's got a lot of different modalities of intense breath, softer breath, movement, sound that helps you process all this and get out of your cerebral mind and into your body. And I do it every day, sometimes for 2 minutes, sometimes for 50 minutes. And it is extremely powerful and has reset me on so many levels. So I would say take a breath.
Love that. And I would say yesterday, when I was not coping well with something, my twin brother said to me, take 4 deep breaths. And I was like,
I mean, sometimes the answer is so simple.
Because it's your brain is, everything's going too fast.
Yes. And I've done the journaling, and I've done the gratitude walks, and I've done the intense retreats and the journeys that I know you've done. And there's a place for all of that. But on a just daily practice. Take a breath.
Love that. And then we donate to a charity of choice. So which charity would you like us to donate to?
I love that. And it's a hard question. There's so many things I care about, but the Compass School of Texas really has my heart. It's an incredible school. I'm on the board. It's a new school, and we're doing a big capital raise with no alumni base because it's a new school. And the reason that I think it's relevant, I wanted to pick something relevant to your podcast and your mission. And the reason that I think it's relevant is that it is not just a place to teach kids math, science, art. It is a place to develop a conscious human. And the kids are doing mindfulness practices. My 8-year-old will tell me when I say something to him, Mom, that didn't feel good in my body when you said that. He is and he's a very like brain dominated child, and he's attached to his body. And they have a farm to table program, and they do yoga, and they're speaking Spanish, and there's a lot of diversity. And all of it is watching this microcosm of what you and I are spending our lives trying to get back to.
Yeah, right. That's right. Take a breath. It's like the reverse engineering. So if you can start your kids without having to reverse engineer that later in their life.
Exactly. What if they already had breath work and yoga and healthy physical bodies, and also recognized the power of, and financial literacy, that's a key element, and societal literacy of this different language, and they learn a lot, and we have an international night, and all these things that are such a big part of being a conscious contributing member of society. And so that's my choice.
I almost want to go back there. It's like
you need to take any of your clients that move to town need to check it out. It's amazing.
Thank you. Honestly, special. And you got me into flow. So, this has been so great for me. And I say from a mirror standpoint, we're mirrors. We are mirrors, right? And the timing of all this is great. You never know where someone is kind of on the mountain, but like, I value this relationship, and I think whenever we get together, the timing is no accident. So thank you.
Well, thank you for having a safe place to share. It was very brave of you to create this for me, for other people, and it was a big moment for me to open up and share. So thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Alex Perry on Fire. It means so much to me and the wonderful team that makes this all possible. I'm now passing the flame to you. Please follow, like, and subscribe so you can always stay up to date. Thanks again, and stay fired up.